The reason why we're pivoting a little bit, there is some news involving the Royals and a downtown stadium. We mentioned this at the beginning of the hour or so. Tod Palmer over at KSHB 41 putting out a report today that Kansas City, Missouri City Council is going to introduce a plan to bring a Royals stadium downtown, the financial framework of that. And Tod joins us right now here on 96.5 The Fan to talk more about it. Tod, I appreciate it. Let's just start from the beginning here, the basics of what you tweeted out. Today, they are introducing financial framework that would set things up moving forward for a downtown stadium?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, anytime you have a development deal, which it's a very large development, but it's still at the heart, it's a development deal. So there's contracts that have to be put in place, and there's processes the city has to go through. The first one is to introduce the ordinance, which will happen today, and then it will get referred to committee. The Finance, Governance, and Public Safety Committee will hear it, and they'll weigh in on it. It's expected that'll get voted out, and then the city council will have a chance to approve, that next week. And then, Washington Square Park is technically it's already owned by the city, at least a portion of the site where they want to build the stadium, right across Main Street from Union Station there. So the Parks Board is going to have to weigh in at some point, and how that all looks. My guess is that once they have all the properties assembled, it'll all get conveyed to the city, and it'll kind of get designated as Truman Sports Complex 2, and and we saw that in Kansas, right? They have to create that stadium authority because that's the only way you can funnel the tax money through, and so, the state of Missouri had their proposal last summer. Once they get the local piece in, that will trigger the ability for the state to the Show Me Sports Investment Act that the Missouri legislature passed in the special session last June to get triggered as well. And so there's some moving pieces as far as that goes still, but this is the first step and the biggest step. This is the first signal we've actually had from an entity and the Royals that a deal is in place and is imminent.
Yeah, so this all seems like a rubber stamped. It's on the yes line, right? In the sense that they were lining up a lot of these ducks to essentially go through all these procedural process. You're making it sound like it's just they know it'll go to council. They're confident it'll pass. They know it'll go to this next step. They're confident it will pass. Is that fair to assume, or is there going to be some pushback somewhere?
Well, I mean, I'm sure outrage is the order of the day among the electorate, right? So I'm sure that there's going to be some people who are unhappy when the financing and the different stuff like that's revealed, But at the end of the day, I think this is something they've been working on for 3.5 years, the Royals trying to get a new stadium in place. This is something that, especially after the vote failed in April 2024 for the sales tax extension, that triggered the chaos we saw when the Kansas legislature amended its star bonds to try to poach the Chiefs and the Royals, and that really ramped things up for Kansas City, Missouri, to try to keep the teams. They weren't able to do that with the Chiefs. As we know, but there was a lot of urgency to get something done with the Royals. And look, I think at the end of the day, the Royals, when they announced in November, I think it was November 15th, 2022, that they weren't going to stay at Kauffman past the lease, which ends after the 2030 season, they said they wanted a downtown stadium. So it was a long way to get there, but I think this is what the city and the Royals always wanted, was baseball in the heart of Kansas City, Missouri.
We're talking to Tod Palmer from KSHB 41. His report about an hour ago, or less than an hour ago, that the city council is expected to introduce an ordinance today that would involve funding mechanisms for a downtown ballpark to keep the Royals in Kansas City, Missouri. Do we have any idea at this point what financially we're talking about here? I mean, we've heard, as you said, for years about, it's a $2+ billion project or whatever. What from the city do you believe we are expecting? Are we talking about, $800 million, $500 million? What do you think that is? Are you hearing anything in that regard?
I don't know specific financing. I know that there had always been talk that Port KC would be involved as the bonding authority that was part of that. And frankly, a big hang-up has been where is the city going to come up with $800 to $1 billion? So I'll be curious to see exactly what plan they came up with. I know that, I started hearing that this was probably imminent in January, February, that Washington Square Park was going to be the destination. Nobody really wanted to put a stamp on it, in part because they wanted to get past Tuesday and the earnings tax renewal. That was very important for the city. They wanted to put their energy into making sure that funding source didn't go away, because if voters had
Sure.
turned that down and the city suddenly had another $300 million gap to fill, then I don't think that the stadium funding would work. They needed to make sure that e-tax passed, so that whatever they're going to do, whether it's tax redirects or, creating some sort of districts and stuff like that, would happen. And look, they can't really introduce a new tax without going to voters, right? Like that's state law. So they're going to have to find a way to move money around and kind of create it, probably, like I said, through the port, ultimately, to make it happen. But that's pretty common for development projects, again, across the city. They're familiar with how to do this. And then we'll see. I don't know, the state legislature, they're going to have to build out that Show Me Sports investment. And there's some hurdles and hoops that'll have to be jumped through there. But the momentum for Washington Square Park is it's a tidal wave at this time.
Remind me, like, you went back to the city tax, which is interesting. That's like 46% of the city's budget or something crazy?
Listen, Charlie Keegan, who is our political reporter at KSHB, has all the details on that. I just know it cost me 1% because I live in Independence, but I work in Kansas City, so I just know that they take 1%. So I meticulously chart days that I don't actually go into Kansas City, so that I can get a couple $100 back in a refund.
I paid for a long time. I lived in Kansas City forever.
Yeah. So I've been doing that. In fact, I just filed my taxes. So, Mr. Mayor, come on, give me my money.
You got to get that city tax refund back for the days you didn't go there. You're personally helped fund it. So at least from this, just the timeline one more time. Today, you're expecting around this afternoon, early afternoon, 2:00 or whatever, the city council will meet and announce funding plans for a downtown stadium site at the Washington Square Park location. And
they're just going to speed read that ordinance and refer it to committee today. It's going to be.
It's not like a meeting. They're not going to talk or anything.
Right. In terms of like a big production, it's going to be a nothing burger today because they just got to get it introduced.
Okay. And then next week they would actually vote on it and pass all these things through committee.
Yeah. So the public finance, the finance committee meets at 10:30 on Tuesday. The Parks Board meets later Tuesday, I believe. And so they'll have to make the referrals, do whatever they need to do. And then once that happens, it can be put on the agenda for next Thursday's city council meeting. And that would be the first opportunity for the council to actually vote up or down and approve it. But it would be shocking at this point for them to bring something forward only to vote it down. Sure. I just don't see that happening. So I think by next Thursday, we'll know exactly what the plan forward for a downtown baseball stadium is.
Tod Palmer.
We'll know the framework today. So
perfect. Hey, Todd, really appreciate the time, man. I know you're busy, so thanks so much for calling in.
Yeah, no problem. Take care, guys.
Absolutely. Tod Palmer from KSHB 41. Again, first to report earlier today that, as he just mentioned, the Kansas City, Missouri City Council is expected to at least introduce legislation, this ordinance that would keep the Royals in KCMO and move forward with a downtown ballpark at the Washington Square Park location.